All right. Welcome once again. Um, I think I'll start by asking us if we have any question from the last class. Do we have any question? And I gave I gave us an assignment to run the same code. I want to be sure that you have done that. Have you executed all these codes on the screen? These are the codes of the last meeting. And I asked us to implement them as well before the next class. Have you done that?
I was doing it to you in class.
You said? You were running the code with me in that day. Is that what you are
Okay,
saying?
yes.
All right. So just like I informed us that very day,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yes, but it's delayed. But I can
Okay.
hear you now, but it's delayed.
Okay. I think it's either from your end or from my end. Okay, so what we actually learned last time was though we use a bit of variable, we step into variable, like I can see here. We started looking at variable. Um, we went far to use the input function to capture users' data and store the data in a variable which we printed out. So I will just paraphrase on the variable so that we can move to the next topic. So like I told us, variables are containers which are used to hold value within a program. And I also explain the essence of creating variables. Based on that, I say variables are used uh, to introduce is so like I was saying that variables are used to introduce external values into a program. So if you can still recall the explanation I gave, I said, let's assume you want to develop an app and the information you need to develop that app are not already within the app. So in that case, you may need to use variable to introduce them so that the program can acknowledge them. And thereafter, after you can use the values in your programming. So this section, we will start with what we know as data types in programming. So I'll take data type, and then after data type, I'll look at operators. And if the time permits us, we will look at data type conversion. So let's start with data type. So in programming, what do we mean by data type? It is impossible for you to write program. It is impossible for you to program without using information. So those information that you use while writing a program, they are called data types. So which means that we can look at data type from two different perspectives. We can look at the primitive data type. So in other words, under data type, we have what we call the primitive data type. We have the primitive type, and then we also have what we call the reference, or we can refer to them as advanced. We can refer to them as advanced data type. But tonight, or in this section, we shall be focusing on only the primitive. So the advanced data type will be a class on its own. So how do we define primitive data type? So the primitive data type are also called the basic or the primary data type in programming. We have them across all programming languages, not just Python. So these are data types that are already built in almost all programming languages. That is why they are referred to as what? Primitive or primary. They are already inside. They all have their constructors, like we are going to find out. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use variable concepts to explain these different data types. And that is why we step into a variable the other time. So the first example of primitive data type, if I say examples of primary or basic data type. So we have the first one is what we call the string. We have the string. And then we have what we call numbers. And then we have what we call the Boolean. We have the Boolean. And then we have what we call the undefined. Undefined. So these are the main Python basic or primitive data type. So which means that all these data types that I've mentioned, they are already acknowledged within Python as inbuilt data type. So every programmer starts by understanding this primitive, and then from here you can now advance to the reference or the advanced data type. So we shall be picking them one after the other, like I said. The best way we are going to practicalize them is by using variable concepts, because variables in this context are the container that will be created to hold any of this data type. So we have a variable that holds string, and that variable will be referred to as what? String variable. So when you have a variable holding number, that variable will be referred to as what? Number what? Variable. So when you have a variable holding Boolean, that variable will be referred to as what? Boolean variable. So the type of value that the variable holds has a way of describing or classifying the type of variable you are working with. So how do we define string? So string data type is character-based data type. When I say character, I am referring to letters. For example, A, B, C, D. They are all string. So by the time you combine them together, because we can define character as a unit of alphabet, like letter A is a character, letter B is a character. So by the time we combine them together, the sequence of this character forms what we call what? String. So based on that, I can say string is anything text in programming. And there are rules for saving or storing string in variable. So like I said, I will use variable concepts to explain them. So the task is create a Python string variable. So this is just like we are using one stone to kill two birds. At the same time, we are learning variables, and at the same time, we are also learning these primitive data types. So the task is that creates a Python string variable that hold, since we said variables are for holding value, that holds your name, because your name is an example of a string. So from the last class, I talked about variable naming convention, or variable naming principles. Like I said, that you shouldn't use only number to name your variable. You shouldn't start your variable name with number. So based on the type of value I want to hold in the variable, I can say my first name. Remember, I talked about, okay, it's like I've already used this. So let me just mesh them together. The one we have used, there was an underscore. So equals to, then I'm storing string. Because you are storing string, which is text, in Python programming, you have to what? Envelope it in the quotes. And that quotes recognizes it as a string. That is what we are saying. So if I stop my name here, Prosper, so we can refer to this Prosper or the variable value as a string. So if I want to check what type of value do we have in first name variable, to know whether Python is going to tell us whether it is a string or a number. So I would say to check data type in Python programming. In Python, so we are going to use a function called type. And the way we are going to write it is we are going to say print the data type, and then I will supply that function type. So this is just like you are nesting the type function inside the print command. And then what do you want to print its data type? You supply the name of the variable, which is the first word name, which is the first name. So by the time we execute this code, we are going to get a reply that says that the type is class under what string. So let me comment some of this out to avoid conflicts, that we can focus on what we are learning at the moment. So let me stop the code and re-execute it. So you can see, so Python has outputted that the category of this data type is string. All right. So now we have their constructors. Let me talk about the constructor, because when I was defining this primitive data, I told us that they are inbuilt data type already. They are already in the program. So which means that they all have their constructors. What do we mean by Python constructors or data type constructors? Data type constructors are the inbuilt function that have been developed within the program to introduce different data type. For example, if not that Python is a dynamically typed programming language that factors out the type of value or data you are storing in a variable, the way you will have written it is that, like this first name now, the way I will have written it, if I want to use it constructor, so I will say what? str, and then that is, I'm using its own inbuilt function to construct it. And then before I supply what? The value, let's say what? Prosper. So Adibin Python is not a dynamically programming language. For each time you are storing a particular data type, you have to use its constructor. So if I run it now, you will see that what I still get what the same what information. But we decided not to inform Python on this because we expected that Python should be able to what decode the type of data by itself to be string. That is why we were not sure. That is why we had to involve this to check whether Python actually recognized this without writing it with its constructor as a string, and which we found out. I hope you are following. Let me get a response from any one of you. Are you following?
Yes, can you hear me?
All right. So now let us look at another technique, which is part of what we should know. So what we just printed now is what? The type of value or data type in this variable. So let's assume that we want to print certain values from the variable. For instance, I want to output only the P. I don't want, because by the time you run this code like this, print, and you supply the name of the variable, which is what? First name, that we end up printing the entire what? Values in the variable. So you can see that I outputted the whole value. Now, let's assume that I want to print out only some letters in this particular what? Variable. So that will now introduce us to what we call a positive and negative indexing in programming. Now, what we mean by indexing is to let us know that when you have arrays of values in a variable, you should know that they all have numerical positioning. So with that acknowledgement, we can now call out any value from the variable using its numerical what? Positioning number. And in programming, the first element or the first item is at what?
We did this one last time.
Yes. Okay. So let me check if we have done that. Okay. So since we have done it, I want to verify if we did both for positive and negative, right? How we can select values from both sides.
Yes.
Okay. Just give me, know why my lights just. All right. So since we have done that, so we can just skip that. So let's quickly look at the next data type. I don't know if I've also explained how to print your variable value or data type in uppercase. Check, because I don't want to assume all these things. But there's the way we go now, we'll skip some of those things without assumption. Check, because there are times that I may just, talk about them, but not really treating them as a topic. We did that, right?
Up and dot lower. Yes.
Dot what? Dot lower, dot
Upper.
upper, right? Okay, good, which means we have done that. All right, so let's quickly look at the next data type. So we'll talk about string, and we know how to manipulate string values. Now let's look at the number data type. Number data type. Now, under number data type, we have two types. We have integer number, and then we have floats. So as a programmer, we need to know the difference between integer and what? Float. Integer are whole numbers, while floats are numbers with decimal units. So like I said, I'm using variable concepts to explain them. So let's say we are given a task to create variable holding integer and variable holding floats. So I can say, let's say variable s should hold 90. So this is an integer. So I can also have variable v holding, let's say 200.70. So this is a floating number. And most time is also referred to as double, which means that this can stand on its own, while this can also stand on its own. Now, let's quickly look at some of the manipulation you can do, just like we're learning all those dot upper, dot lower, printing out certain character from a string. So let's look at some associated operations we can perform with integer or float number. So let's assume that we want to perform a simple arithmetic calculation. Let's say we want to multiply 90 or the variable s by the value in variable v. So we can simply say print s times then v, and that we output what? The multiplication. And then we can change the operator from times to plus to minus to division. So we have these just to walk all through them. So we have a single division sign, but this one we divide and give you decimal units or decimal numbers. Now, if I put 2 here, that is another symbol for division that will round up the number to what? To integer. So we know how rounding off number works. So you can change that operator to minus, and then that we perform that calculation. So that is for you to know how to work with integer and floats. So let's quickly look at the next data type, which is the Boolean. The Boolean data type. So the Boolean is another Python primitive data type which has only 2 values. The value of Boolean can either be false or true. So they are also inbuilt data type. So for example, I can test the Boolean sensitivity by telling Python that prints, we want to know whether Python is going to output one of the Boolean value. So we can tell Python, check whether variable s is greater than what? Variable v. So we are expecting to get a Boolean value, which could be what? True or false. If I run this, it says false, because what you have in variable s is not greater than what you have in variable v. So that is the Boolean testing. Or we can as well store Boolean value directly in the variable, because variable can actually hold most of these data types. So I can say BO equals to, and then but the first value or the first character should be capital letter. So if I ask Python to print the Boolean, ordinarily we are supposed to quote it because it look like text or string, but because it's a Boolean, which is already in the program, that is why we did not bother to quote it, and Python will not throw error. So if I say Python print the BO, which is where we have the Boolean value, that is going to output that value to be true. I hope that is clear. Do you have any question before we look at the next topic? All right. So have you performed most of this code? Are you writing them alongside with me? Let me know the ones you have executed. Hmm?
Yes.
Okay. So you share your screen. Let me look at it. Let me be sure. Share your screen. Let me see it. Let me see what you have executed so far. Go ahead and share your screen. Are you sharing already? I'm here to see your screen.
And
I'm with you. I can't see your code yet.
start typing.
I thought you said you have written them.
There's a part of the class I will like type you once, but I haven't typed anything.
So what I've done today now, I want you to execute them. So if you
Okay.
have not written them, you want to capture them, I can share my screen so that you can take the.
You can just call it for me. I can type it and I know what I'm doing. So
I don't need to call it for you. That is another class. It's for you to. I thought you were writing them down while I was teaching. Does it mean you did not write down anything? But if you can remember everything, I wanted to share my screen, then you just take a picture of it, then you follow it and execute everything. So that you follow it the way, just to confirm that you have cleared that part before we proceed.
okay.
So let me quickly share the screen and then I'll go off, just take a picture of it and execute it. Please, you have to be writing. You have to be writing so that when it is time for you to replicate what I've done, you should be able to write from your notes. So just take a shot of it. I'll switch back to your screen. I want to be seeing how you are. You can actually, manipulate with different value. It mustn't be 90 you are storing here. I just want to see how you are applying what we have learned. Have you taken the picture or you are writing?
I'm taking it now.
Please take it. I want to be monitoring what you are writing. Once you have taken the picture, let me know so I can switch to your screen.
Okay.
So you can share your screen back.
I'm not seeing it.
No, not yet. I thought you stopped sharing before you were able to see mine.
Okay.
So you have to share again. So, madam, hope you have written your own as well. Are you executing something?
Yes.
Okay, so once you are ready with your own, you let me know. Let me just see it. Victor, if you can increase your, you can increase,
Font.
if you can, no, not the font. If you can increase the editors, like you over minimize it. If you can expand the app a little, fine. I don't know whether you are the one that, maybe you are the one that reduced it. It's appearing very small here. So I want to see your code very well. But if you cannot do it, you can just continue. Proceed. All right, so let's look at data conversion, which is a concept that every Python programmer must understand, because once we start developing apps at some point, we are going to be converting data before a certain value can be manipulated. So let's take that as a topic, data conversion in Python. Data conversion. So the best way I am going to explain this to us is with some practical. And when we get some errors, you will now know why it's necessary to convert data. But before that, let's write a brief note on that. So data conversion, also known as type or data type casting. Let me try and put it in writing for the sake of those that will write. I say data conversion is also known as data type casting. So in Python, when you hear data type casting, we are talking about what? Data conversion. So for example, if you tell Python to print this, and then I will ask you what would be the expected answer. If I ask Python to print this, then we just talk about operator now. That is, I'm concatenating. And then let's say I want Python to add this value. Who can tell us what the answer will be? What do you think would be the answer?
To be error.
It's going to what? Print them together, not error. It's going to print them together without performing any form of calculation. But meanwhile, what we expected to get is the addition of what? This and this. But instead, Python joined them together, which is called concatenation. Why? Because in as much those numbers are in the string, the quotation, Python sees them as what? String data type. We just talk about string now. So Python is seeing them as tests. Now, if we want to write this same code and still perform the expected calculation, we have to convert from string to integer so that Python will now see this as number. And once it sees this as number, then it will now be able to what? To add them together to give us a result. So for us to achieve that, let's now convert. So this is where data conversion. So the question is that which data type are you currently having that you want to convert from? We are currently having what? String. Now we want to convert from string to what? Integer. So to convert this, so I will say what? To convert the string to integer. to convert the string to integer, we are going to use integer constructor or casting, like I just mentioned. So we are going to say Python print, then we will say integer. Are you following? We'll say integer and then open a bracket. So that same number that we have there, which is what? 1, 2, what? 1, 2, 3. So what I'm doing right now, I am casting, which means I'm converting string data type to what? Integer. So I'll bring in the plus just like we have it before. And then I will also create another word, integer, and then wrap the next number inside, which is 5, 7, 8. 5, 7, 8. So if I execute, we are expected to have, I think the print is this. This one closes. Yeah, we are here to close this. We have to close this. Okay, so this is for this and this is for this. So if I run it now, it's going to give me the what? The calculation instead of concatenating them. So let me give us just 2 minutes to execute this also quickly. Once you have done it, you let me know, but should we exceed 2 minutes?
I've done it.
All right. So now let's take a look at more examples that we make us understand this topic. So now we want to combine it with input. Remember that we have treated input before now. And I told us that input is a way of collecting what? Our users' what? Information. So let's assume that we want to collect this and also convert it. Because right now we supply the string. That is where we have an idea of the data that will be collected. What about if you provide an input, which means that at this point, you don't even know the type of data the person is going to what? Feed you. So we are assuming that if the person feed you with a string, you want to convert it to what? Data. So it's just a kind of little project. So I'm going to be working with variables. So let's say I have name underscore of underscore a user as a variable, and then I collect the information with the input what? A function, and then inside the input function, so I can say enter enter your name. Enter your name. Now, what we are bringing here is the Python function for counting. The user will give you the name, and the name will be stored in what? Name of the user. So I now want to create another variable, which is called what? Length. Another variable, which is called length. Length of the name. Length of the name. Or let's say what? Yes, whatever name that will have been given to you through the input function. So I would say that should be configured as what? Len function. Len function, I don't know if we have mentioned it before. So Python len function is to help us to count.
Yes.
It's for counting. So we can just supply the name variable. That is what? Name of the user, which means that what? Collect the user's name and what? Count it, store the answer you get in the length of the name variable. Now, we would like to get the output, so I can now say what? Print. I can now say print length. So what we are printing is what? Print length of the name. So if I run the code, I should be getting what? That information. So it's asking me, enter your name. So let's say I type my name, Prosper, and then I press enter, and it outputted what? Prosper has 8 character. So 2 minutes to also apply this before we proceed.
I'm doing it.
All right. Okay. Madam Alpha, have you done it as well? And I hope you are following. I can't hear you. Have you done it?
I'm on it.
Okay.
Continue. I'm on it. I'm almost done.
Okay. So now, with what we have learned so far, we want to build a simple calculator, and this will help us to summarize everything about Python variable, the print command, the inputs, then before we actually look at a different topic. So let's just tag this projects. Let's say what? Project 1, the first project that will help us to summarize everything we have learned. So what is the project? The project is for us to build a calculator, and we will welcome the users to the tip calculator, and then we will ask the user what is the total bill. Let's assume that we are developing this app or this calculator for, let's say, maybe individuals living in the same compound, and they are to share their NEPA bill. So we want to use this calculator once we have an idea of the total bill and see how we are going to distribute it. So like I said, this is to help us to see what we have learned so far. So let me write the narration of the calculator so that as we build it, you know our objective, what we want to achieve. So like I said, we are looking at what? It's just like a task, build a calculator. Calculator, and the calculator will welcome to the tip calculator. Welcome to the tip calculator. So what was the total bill? So you ask the question, and then let's say we will say the total bill is 124.56. That is in dollar. So this is just like the flow chart on how we are going to achieve this. So I will now ask how much tip would you like? to give. So we now assume that we have different tips. We have 10, we have 12, or or 15. Question. Now I would say, okay, I want 12 out of the option. So the next will be how many people, to split. How many people to split the bill? How many people to split the bill? So I will reply 7 of them, or 8 of them, or 2 of them. Then and press. So that will be the last. So once I supply 7 and press enter to see the results. So this is a simple app we want to develop. And like I said, this app is going to walk us through all the concepts we have learned so far, because we are not just learning the variable for nothing's sake. We did not just learn the input function for nothing's sake and all those techniques. So everything, this app will enable us to what? To initialize them. So looking at the first line, welcome to the tip calculator. So I'll print, so I've started developing the app now. I will print using, here I'm not collecting any inputs. I'm not interested in storing it. That is why I'm not referencing variable. So I just want to simply welcome them to the usage of the calculator. So welcome to the tip calculator. Hope you are writing down your code. Welcome to the tip calculator. So from the flowchart, the next thing is for me to what? To capture the bill, because you see what was the total bill? So I need to register what? The total bill. And that total bill will be what? Reference. So which means that we need to capture it from the user, because at this point we don't know the bill that they want to distribute for 7 persons. So we say, what is the total bill? So we are giving them room to what? To give us the bill, because we do not know the bill. So that will now lead to what? You creating a variable and receiving that bill with the input function. So I will say bill is equals to, now remember, the bill can be a float data type, which means that it can have somewhat fraction like decimal. So which means that we should convert immediately, so that, because we cannot assume that they will give us an integer. I believe as I'm using this term now, you understand, a whole number. So in case they supply us the bill to be a double number, we have already make room for it. So for that, I will say floats. So this is, you are converting now, just like the way we converted our string to what? Integer the other time. So I will say what? Floats. I will say float. Inside the float, I'm collecting data from them. So I will what? Next, what? The input. All right. So whatever value I am given should be converted to what? To float before storing it in the bill variable. That is what we are communicating. So I will now finally ask for the data, which is what? What is the bill, or what was the bill? Let's say, what is the what? The bill. What is the, I think, what is the total bill? It's a question you are asking. All right. So the next line of code, we are following the sequence. The next line of code is where we say what? Where we ask a question like, how much tip will you like to give? How much tip will you like to give? So in other words, I will create a variable that will collect the tip. So I will say what? Tip is equals to, then that tip is going to be supplied as integer. Look at the number of tips that we mentioned there. We mentioned what? 10, 12, or 15. They are all integer. There is no what? Decimal number there. So which means that I'm going to use integer constructor. I hope you are still with me. Hello? Can you hear me? I was asking if you were following.
Yes, you stop talking.
Okay, so now, so we are still developing the app. Make sure you pay attention because that will actually be the last thing we are going to look at tonight. And this is to help us to understand all the concepts we have learned so far. So remember the question here, how much tip will you like to give? We mentioned 10, we mentioned what? 12, we mentioned 15, and then I reply 12. So which means at this point, I have to collect an integer value from them. So I will use the integer constructor. So you can see how we are indirectly touching everything. And then inside it, I'm collecting data from them. For that reason, I'm also using the what? The impute function. Then I will now ask the question, what percentage tip? What percentage tip would you like to give? Will you like to give? Right? Now, I will just put, for example, we have 10, remember, like we have indicated in, we have 10, we have 12, we have what? Even 15. So which means that I should reply, or he or she should reply that he wants to give what? Certain percentage. Right? Now the next question is what? How many people to split the bill once you have accepted to give certain percentage? How many of them are to divide what? The bill. So which means that we will create another variable called what? People. So this is how most of these have that you see. This is how they are sequenced. So now we are going to collect integer. So I will use what? Integer constructs. And then I'm also collecting information from them. So I will use the impute function. And then before I ask the question, and the question is what? How many people to split the bill? You know, you will reply maybe, I think from what you put there, you reply maybe 7 or 6 or 5. So you reply there. I can say what? E.g. 7. Now, if you look at our code, our flowcharts, the next one is what? We will now print what? The results. So to print the results, we will have to what? Create other sub variables to do the calculation because you mentioned percentage. So if somebody give you, let's say what? The percentage that you must have collected, because when you say what is the percentage. If you have typed maybe 10, so it will calculate 10 over 100. So you have to specify the calculation for Python. So I will now say tip. Remember, tip as percentage. As percentage or percent is equals to tip slash 100. So you have to program it that whatever the percentage the person provide, it should be what? Divided by 100. That is the essence of that tip as what? Percentage. Now we are still coding. Now total tip amounts. How do we now, after the percentage has been calculated, how do you now what? Calculate the total tip amount. So you now create another variable, total underscore tip underscore amounts. And that will be equals to the bill itself, then times the bill times the tip as percentage, which is this variable that you just created. So I'll say what? Tip as percentage. Now, we are still writing before we output the last results, because this is a calculator. So we have to make sure that we provide all these techniques, because without this, the calculator will not know the percentage to calculate, and it will not know how to get about it. So the next one is we have another variable to create, which is total underscore bill underscore bill, total underscore bill. After the calculation, it will now be what? Total underscore bill will now be the bill itself, plus total, the bill itself plus total percentage, total tip what? Amount. So that will now form the bill. Then now the bill percentage per one, or the bill per person, because that is what you make, what per person. Once you have given the 7, the bill per person, how much will that be? So I'll create a variable to hold that bill underscore per underscore person. And that will be equals to the total bill, the one we just created now, the total bill, then divided by the number of people that you must have collected. Because you say, what? How many people? Maybe the person will enter 7. So for us to know how much each person is going to pay is by what? The total bill, and then divided by what? The number of people that must have been given. So finally, we can now print the results. So finally, we will now say, we'll create a final output. Let's say final amounts, final underscore amounts is equals to, we want to round the number up, and that is going to use this Python function called what? Round. You just to approximate it. Round, and then we will now supply the what? The bill per person. We will now supply the bill per person, and then once we put a comma and put 2, it means that whatever value that comes out after the division should be rounded up to what? 2 what? Decimal units. I hope you understand that. If you put 3, it means that what? To 3 what? Decimal units. If you put 4, that is the meaning of what? This function, to round up. I hope that is clear, because after this now we are printing our results. So after this, we say print After this, we say print, and we are using Python string printing. I think I mentioned it before, where you put F and then before what? This is called Python what? String what? Printing. Have we discussed that before? Python what? String printing. I hope you understand what I mean by Python string printing. Let me hear from you. I don't know if you can hear what I'm saying. Maybe my network is
I've
delayed.
not talked about it.
Okay. So Python string printing is where you use this F. And we use this F where we are printing an expression that will involve information that we have not captured in any variable, and also invoking values in variables. So see how, let me write the entire code. I will tell you why we are using this word instead of just supplying final amounts. So we are using the string printing. So I will say each person. You can see that there's no place in the program where you have store what? This each person. So you now say what? Each person should pay. Each person should pay. Then we want to call, there is a variable where we must have calculated and store how much per person is to pay. So how do we now reference the variable? And we want to reference the variable with the currency sign. Let's say what is going to be outputted in dollar. So to reference the variable, I will use the coiling bracket. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So here we want to call a variable that exists while you are writing in what? A string. So you recognize that within your string, you recognize it in the calling bracket. And what are we going to put here? The final amount. That is what we are putting here. So that means what? Call the value in the what? The final amount, and then attach it to what each person should pay, call the value from here. Did you understand it now?
Can you explain the F string again?
Now, the F string here is that we are trying to print a value. We are trying to print variable and string. Remember, I told you that string means what? Text. Now, if you look at this, each person should pay. If I ask us now, have we stored this information in any variable here? What I highlighted now. The answer is no. But we want to print it together with a known word or a calculated value. And that is the reason why we indicated by using the F so that we can capture that information. And then when we want to attach a calculated value that exists in a variable, we put it in what? The calling bracket. I hope it's clear now. So I can as well print it like this. I can as well just say what? Print final amount. But there will not be any description that tells us the value we are getting. Like this one that say what? Each person should pay certain amount. So if I run this code now, you say if I run this code, I get, let's confirm if our calculator is working. Now let's do something here. Let's remove all this so that we can gain some focus. So you can see that this particular project has explained variable concepts, has also explained prints, inputs, almost everything we have learned. This particular project has explained them, and that is the objective. So let me stop the code and run it again here. So I have what? Welcome to the tip what? Calculator. What is the total bill? What is the total bill? So let's say the total bill is 5,000, and I press enter, and it asks me what percent or what percentage tip will you like to give? We have mentioned that it could be what, 10, it could be what, 15, it could be 12, it could be 15. Okay, let's say I want 10. I press enter, and it asks me how many people to split the bill. I'll say, okay, I want 5 of them. And then it printed what? Each person should pay what? Can you see the calculation now?
Yes.
Each person should pay what? So this is a full solution you can build, for a compound that have all these face me and face you that normally fight for sharing bill. Maybe they are like 20. You can just build this as an app and give it to the person in charge. That once they get the bill, then he should impute. And once they get the bill and she have or he has an idea of the total number of persons to share it, then the person will just be following the information. And then at the end of the day, we arrive at what? The total bill or the amount of bill each person is to pay. So this will bring us to the end of this section. Your assignment is that you use this concept to develop a different calculator. You give me this one first. You give me this one first. Make sure that you have the code like this. And then you look at it and twist it for something else. It might not be bill. It might be a product. It might be a particular amount you want certain people to share. So just think of a different concept that you can implement with this kind of what? Sequence. Any question?
No.
Okay. So I hope you have taken down your code. Have you written them down? Because you must submit this before we proceed. Probably tomorrow. I will let you know the time for tomorrow.
I'm not sure that tomorrow will work.
Okay, so just let me know on time if you will not be available. So, but you have a lot of work to do now. So you have to develop 2 different apps. The first one is to replicate this one, let it function the way it's working now. And then you look at it and come up with a different concept, something else that you feel that this can be a solution to. Exactly. The same thing to Madam as well. So, Madam, you can look at maybe you want to give your staffs certain a Christmas bonus, and you want to bring out certain amounts you want to distribute. That is for Madam. I'm not, Victor, don't take this concept too. I want you to develop your own by yourself. Madam, I hope you are hearing me.
I'm listening.
So let's say that
Yes, sir.
let's assume that you have like 20 staffs, and maybe because they outperform, you want to give them certain bonus, and the company has brought out certain amount. Let's say, okay, for all these staffs, we want to share 1 million. So you develop an app that will help you to share that 1 million to each of them. That at the end of the day, just like this one outputted, each person should pay this amount. Your own will output what each person is entitled to receive certain what portion of that 1 million. So that is the app you are to develop for me, while Victor will factor out something else to develop in line with this. I hope that is taken.
It's about
Yes.
1 minute. I'm still writing the
Okay.
last part.
Okay. Victor, what is the
Yeah.
assignment again? I want you to say it because I don't want whereby you tell me that you don't understand. Can you recap the assignment? What is the assignment?
So the first one is this code you did today. Now, the second one is that I make another one on my own.
Okay.
Like me solving the problem.
Okay, good. So,
How about when we start the database?
um, I wanted us to go a little bit, but we can schedule the next class. The next class we can decide to go for database. You know, I suggested it if the demand, maybe in your school, demand that you should be applying both of them, then we can shuffle the classes. Maybe the next class we can just go with
Yes, it's better
database.
that way.
Then the following class we go back to Python. We can be learning them side by side so that you can use them for the purpose you want to use it.
Yes.
So I will schedule the next class for database. So once you are free, just keep notifying me, just like the way you did. Like yesterday, we are available. You might never tell. Don't assume that I will not be available. Just keep telling me that, sir, I'm available today. So I'll just check my schedule. Sometime I may be available. Madam, how far are you through so that we can end the session? Are you still writing? Madam, are you still writing? I don't know if she can hear me.